What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Jump. Brittany Renner most recently has recorded several short clips or a full podcast that will be broken up to short clips on DJ Vlad's channel. And the first clip was a banger, okay? And it's called Brittany Renner Cries, My White Mom Loved Black Penis More Than She Loved Me. And this is the first time I've really heard Brittany Renner talk about or go into great detail about her family life. And she talked about how her white mother and her black father both were not in her life. And she is from a town called Ocean Springs, Mississippi, or she at least moved there. So she's from the South, where, at that time, interracial relationships might not have been, looked highly upon. And the mother seems to be sort of a rebel herself, which is probably where Brittany Renner kind of gets that spirit from. Anyways, her mom decided to have, very attractive black men, has several children by many different black men. And it came to a point that the mother was so dysfunctional, the grandparents said, listen, we need to step in and take care of your kids. All right. And so the mother agreed that, hey, I'm going to give my kids over to, the grandparents and things like that. And according to Brittany Renner, the grandparents were quite strict, which is how most grandparents were in the 90s, especially those who were from the devout status or the Christian status. They played the rules a certain way. My grandparents were no different. Right. And how Brittany Renner dealt with this was that she snuck out the house, she was drinking and things like that. But she had a yearning for her mother and her father. All right. And so what happened was, as time went on, she would seek, different men out to want her, because she felt that her mother and father didn't. The dad was an alcoholic. He wasn't in her life when she was a young child. He came into her life, in 2015, when she was already at that time popping on social media, which is what happens with most deadbeat parents. All right. And then the parents were also talked badly about by her grandparents. So she said it herself. Her white grandparents had a hate campaign against her mother, which led her in her book to write this, that her mother liked black penis more than she loved me. And because Brittany Renner felt that way, she would always look for men to love her because the parents didn't. And this was the first time I've seen her cry, on Vlad TV. And a lot of times when you see Brittany Renner on Instagram, it's hard to look at her as a human being sometimes. And I'm not being mean or anything. It's just that it's hard you look at her and you think about, like, wow, she's just rude. You don't really look at the fact that this is a person that has grown to become this, right? And this is the first time I've seen this side of her as to how she grew up. Okay. So I can understand it now a little bit more. When somebody's on Instagram or social media, they're showing you a persona that is a result of being them, but you don't really know how they got there. And why is this important for a lot of African American men who are dating in today? I think that with a lot of these ladies that come from these broken homes, and many of them do, a lot of you guys are like PJ Washington. She could actually be a nice person. She could actually be, great in bed, and she can actually love you. And I do believe when Brittany Renner might be with some of these guys, she actually loves them. But the fundamental problem is going to come in when you look at this. She doesn't have the infrastructure to be a stable wife. She doesn't have the infrastructure to be in a stable family. One of the reasons is that she doesn't come from that. And anything is possible, but it's not very likely. And I think that a lot of times when black men, we look at a woman, we're not judging her based on what her background is. That's the difference between the lower middle class and middle class and elite. Okay? Most upper class people are not going to marry you just because you look good. That's what new money does. That's what the lower middle class do. You know, we'll marry a lady that has a sketchy background, and you know what? She looks good. She loves me. I'm going to marry her, make her my wife. And that woman cannot be a wife because she comes from a disadvantaged background or a broken background. And that relationship is going to go nowhere immediately. And you'll see she'll be going back dealing with dudes in the street. And, it is a part of thoughting it up, but it's just a part of who she's been learned to become. A lot of women are programmed to deal with what they're dealing with because of what they've seen growing up. And a lot of times, black men take this personal. Trust me, I was one of them. I've had women I dealt with that were really nice, couldn't never go to the next level. You see they go to the next guy. She gets pregnant by the next guy. The guy isn't that great and things like that. She might even complain about that guy. And I will wonder, like, damn, was it something I did wrong? And the reality was there's nothing that I did wrong. So much so to the point that she did that, right? I mean, anybody makes mistakes, but it just was, she was migrating towards the path that her family put her to. Okay? The relationship path was already determined by her lifestyle. And that's where a lot of young ladies are at right now in America from our community. A lot of these ladies, if you're going to deal with them, they need a lot of help. She talks about she went to therapy. She goes to therapy. She even cried on the podcast. Okay? Because a lot of that hurt that these ladies have been having, they can party, they can drink, they can deal with different guys. That hate is always going to be, that hurt is always going to be there. And the reality is that if you are a guy, and I mean to say this, because Brittany Renner, I don't think that she's a bad person. I think she's a victim of what happened to her, or what didn't happen to her, which is having her parents in her life. I'm gonna tell you this: if you're a black man on the come up, all right, you want to have a wife. Nobody's perfect. But if a woman doesn't have a father in her life, it's hard. It's very hard. And she saw that, hey, her grandparents were in a 2-parent household, and she saw that dynamic. But the mother and the father were not there. That's very difficult. And you see a lot of guys in the black community trying to step in and play daddy, or trying to step in and be husband and daddy. You're having more roles because the woman has problems, and that's taken away from your progression in life. And when you do that, you're making investments that you don't need to make. Right? At the level that I'm at now, which is not even the best level, a woman has to already be where I'm at. I mean, mentally, emotionally, you got to be there. I don't have time to worry about, well, you know what? Well, we need to work with you and work on you and get you tipped to the level, and let's deal with your potential as a woman. I don't have that kind of time. I just don't. If you're already broken as a person, you're already broken as a woman, you need to get help. And that's what she's doing. I will at least give her credit for that. But I just don't have the time. And many of you guys just don't have the time. A woman has to already be ready, or she's not. If she's not ready, it's not my problem. Okay? I can't fix what's already been done. Women have to fix themselves to be ready. And a lot of guys are trying to come in and take the problems of a woman. And when you do that, it's so much of a risk. What do you get out of it? Is the question. You can spend all your time in investing in somebody else, and then, women are not like banks. What you get in is not what you always get. Is what you always get out. So you can go on to the next person, and there you are. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I really appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell, check out the first comment at the top, and as you know, the buffoonery remains at an all-time high. I'm out.